So in 1987, my husband Michael and I lived in New York City on East 18th Street. And on Saturday mornings, one thing I liked to do was go out for what I called a run. It wasn't really a run. It was more like jog a little, walk a little, jog a little, just to get out and get some fresh air. And the closest place to do this was East River Park, which ran along the East River. So from 18th Street, you go down to 12th Street, and there was an access bridge, and then you were beside the river, which was cold and gray, and there was a not very tall fence between the sidewalk and the river. And then if you're going downtown, that the river's on your left, and on your right were ballpark and playgrounds, and then a fence, and then the, no, not the fence, FDR Drive, and then the housing projects of Alphabet City. And at that time in New York City, Alphabet City was not a very safe neighborhood. It was full of drug dealers and young hooligans and such. And so it wasn't really the safest place to go running. But there were usually families in the park, and there were boys playing basketball. And all right, I would keep my wits about me. Besides, what I loved about New York was all the different kinds of people that were there. So being scared of some place that was technically not safe was not really something I wanted to do. So I decided I would just go there on Saturday mornings, and that would be fine. Well, this one Saturday morning, it was warm and beautiful. The first day I remember that it was warm enough to wear shorts. And off I went in my little shorts to go jogging. And when I got there was nobody there, which was very strange for such a beautiful morning. I could have turned around, but I thought, well, you know, people are going to come out. It's beautiful. At that time in New York, you didn't go anywhere deserted. But, okay. So I started running down the sidewalk, and I tripped and I fell. And I hauled myself up, and I wasn't hurt badly, but my shin was all skinned and my knee was cut pretty bad, and it was just pouring blood. Blood was pouring down my legs into my little white socks. Well, that was the end of my jog. I turned around to go home, but I thought if I go out on the sidewalk looking like this, people, even in New York, are going to be, oh, what happened? Can we help you? Oh, poor thing. I didn't want to deal with that, so I got to this little enclosure. Now, I've been back to look for this place, and I can't find it. They've renovated the park, so I'm not positive I remember it as it was. But in my mind, here's the access bridge over to 12th Street. And there was this little promenade area, brick or flagstone or something, that was out into the river. And there were benches around, and then a fence around those benches. So I stretched my leg out, standing up onto the bench to try to raise it up so it would stop bleeding. So I'm looking at it. I don't have anything with me to help it stop, but maybe just elevating it. Well, I look up, and walking towards me is a homeless man. Now, I was friends with homeless people. I did theater in the shelters. It's not that he was homeless that bothered me, but that some of these people have mental problems, and until you talk to them, you don't know how they are. And he had on 2 or 3 coats, and it was warm enough to wear shorts, and a lot of plastic bags, and there was nobody else there, and the East River was my only refuge if I needed to get away from him. And he was walking straight toward me, and he came toward me, and I said, hello, and he said, hello, would you like some Kleenex for my knee? Thank you, I said, to be polite, and because I did need Kleenex, but I didn't know what he had in those bags, what he was going to hand me, what was going to be clean Kleenex. But he pulled out this generous wad of clean Kleenex, and he handed it to me, and he said, the places I go, I really need to keep this with me. And he turned around and he left. So I was mopping up my leg, and the bleeding was slowing, and I was kind of cleaning it up. And I looked up, and here comes this guy, again, walking straight toward me. He had a black hat, a beige trench coat, black pants, black shoes, and this black suitcase-looking thing that in the movies would have contained a Tommy gun or $1 million in unmarked bills. And he was not smiling, and he was walking straight toward me. Now, at this time, the East River also was where you would go dump bodies and cement over shoes if you were in the mafia. And he walked right up to me, and he says, would you like some antibiotic cream? And I said, Yes, thank you. And he opened his suitcase, which had a horn in it. I don't remember. I think it was a bugle, cornet, but I'm not sure. It could have been a sax. And in a little compartment there, he had antibiotic cream, and he squirted some on my finger, and he said, I'm exhausted. I've been up all night playing my horn. And he walked off. So I put the antibiotic cream on. By now, my knee is much better. Still, nobody else in sight. Down the access path comes this huge guy on this huge bicycle, very tough, black leather. And I, beside that kind of person, I feel like, hi. And a real New Yorker, whereas I wasn't a real New Yorker yet. He came down the access path, and I thought he was going to go by, but no, he stopped right there, blocking the only access besides the river, and he put his foot down, and still, he's tall, way over me, and he says, would you like a Band-Aid? And I said, oh, no, that's okay, I don't really need a Band-Aid. Nonsense, I've got plenty of Band-Aids. And he unzipped his biker pouch, and he pulled out a Band-Aid, and he gave it to me. Thank you. I said, oh, anytime, he says, and he cycled away. And I put on my Band-Aid, and by now, I didn't think I would attract attention on the sidewalk, so I limped my way home. And I thought, that was so weird. Maybe that bum and that mafia musician and that threatening cyclist were really angels. That they had come in the right order to give me exactly what I needed, and that maybe there was a message in this, even if they weren't angels. And the message probably was that I didn't need to worry as much as I tend to worry about my own self and the people that I care about, because in the unlikeliest of circumstances, it seemed that I was being, and that we will be, taken care of. And that's the story of East River Angels. Oh.